Episode 1. In a luxurious and spacious office, somewhere in the bustling city of Lagos, Nigeria, sat a man who embodied dedication and passion in every fiber of his being. His name was Andy, a young and handsome man who had devoted his life to his career and built his life around success in all the projects his organization involved him in. There were times his colleague and close friend, Chukwudi, would tease him about being as boring as his secondary school physics teacher, but Andy would simply laugh it off, reminding Chukwudi that getting his job done professionally is his own high. Andy's days were consumed by blueprints, deadlines, and endless hours at the drafting table, leaving practically no room for anything else. That is, until he met Stella, a strikingly beautiful Eastern Nigerian girl whose presence was like a ray of sunshine in his meticulously structured world. With her infectious laughter and captivating smile, she was impossible to ignore, and soon, Andy found himself drawn to her in a way he had never experienced before. His soul and body, once consumed solely by work, now yearned for the warmth and companionship that only Stella could provide. She was from Eastern Nigeria, a place Andy had always been curious about but had never visited, and this seemed to add to the intrigue in their relationship. Their love blossomed beyond measures, and Stella was quite proud of herself, as her friends cooed and wowed about how she had clinched herself a choice man. "You're so lucky, Stella. Just how were you able to get yourself such a prize man?" Julia, one of her friends, asked as she sat with them one afternoon. "You can say that again, Julia. That dude is every woman's dream. He showers Stella with so much love and, most importantly, expensive gifts. Oh dear God, am I a shoe? When will I find my own prince in shining armor?" Sophia quipped, her beautiful eyes dancing as she spoke. The smile on Stella's face remained constant as her friends kept gushing at the bag of goodies she was unpacking, after going on a date with Andy that afternoon. "You know, girls, I've always prayed to God to give me a man that'll give me all the attention I want in this life. I'm so glad that he sent Andy my way because I don't know what I would have done if he turned out the unromantic type, after I got drawn by all the wealth and affluence he has," Stella said. "Oh, please stop already. You're just lucky to find a romantic man in the rich dude. Otherwise, the Stella that I know will still stick there till her last day on Earth, no matter how unromantic he is," Julia chirped. "You're right about that, Julia. Who wouldn't stick to a man as rich as Andy, just because he isn't romantic? Stella, you really got lucky that he is romantic as well, otherwise, you surely wouldn't have done anything too," Sophia said emphatically. Stella laughed her heart out as she watched her two friends analyze her love for wealth. "Well, you can never say never, you know. I love comfort and the luxuries of life, just like everyone else does, but you see attention? I don't play with it," she replied before she tactically changed the topic. Coincidentally, after that discussion with her friends, Stella noticed that Andy was no longer giving her the attention she had become used to. "What is going on with us, Andy? You hardly have time for me. You'll miss my calls, yet you won't return the call. I'll message you and you don't even read my messages, how much more replying them? If you're no longer interested in me, why don't you just tell me straight up?" Stella complained. Andy felt touched by what she said and held her to himself as he explained that he truly loved her and wanted nobody else but her. "But you see, Stella, I have a job that requires so much attention from me. I occupy a very sensitive position in my establishment, and a lot depend on me for success. When we met, I told you I was on leave, so I had all the time to myself. But now that I have resumed duties, I really can't have the time to run round town with you," he replied. Stella would come to visit him often, always finding time to see him, but Andy, consumed with his work and ambitions, could never spare her the attention she craved. "I have something very important to discuss with you, Andy, and we have to talk about this now because it is very important that I let you know the state of things. Can you please come over later today?" she asked him one day, but as usual, he had too much up his sleeves to create time for such conversations. "Please send a text, Stella. I'll read as soon as I can and get back to you. But I can't come over to your house today because I'll be working into the night. If the issue is money-related, you can withdraw from the joint account we're running without pre-informing me. Just take care of whatever it is, and I'll see you this weekend," he responded before he switched off his phone to concentrate on the task he had at hand. Then Stella began to complain bitterly about the lack of attention and how unhappy and lonely she feels because of his unromantic nature. Still, he assured her of his love and devotion, promising her a future together. That future came sooner than she had expected when they got married in a lavish traditional wedding. Friends and family watched in admiration as the couple publicly displayed their affection, holding hands and smiling affectionately. Their honeymoon was however postponed because Andy said he still had some jobs to complete in his place of work, so he moved ahead and made arrangements for Stella to be brought to his house in the city. He was shocked to see Stella arrive at his house with an adorable little girl in her tow. "And who is this? We just got married, Stella. Why have you brought your sister with you, without asking me first?" he asked her. "This is Madonna. And she's our daughter, not my sister," she replied with a straight face.
Come ho fit Stella?
"How can we have a daughter when we just got married? What sort of joke is this?" Andy asked seriously. "I tried to talk to you about this, Andy. I tried to let you know about Madonna's existence and to let you know that she'll be living with us," Stella said, and Andy squinted in concentration, seeing that she wasn't joking. Stella explained to him that the girl, Madonna, was conceived out of an ugly encounter she had before they were married. According to their traditions, Madonna was now Andy's daughter because he had married Stella. Andy, being from western Nigeria, was not accustomed to such customs, but he accepted the girl into his home without hesitation because he loved Stella too much to create more troubles for her. He did everything to make her happy and comfortable in their marriage, but Stella would always complain about how seldom he got in bed with her. "My job demands a lot of attention, Stella, just as our home has innumerable bills to be picked. I can't pick these bills laying with you every second of the day," he'd tell her, and she could only pout unhappily. 7 years into their marriage, they had 2 more children, and Madonna had grown into a very beautiful young woman. Their marriage seemed rosy, with Stella no longer nagging him about his long hours at work or his absence from her bed, as she did in the early days of their marriage. One fateful day, though, Andy returned from work to find Stella gone, leaving behind a lengthy note that explains how she had eloped with the man who had impregnated her with Madonna all those years ago. Andy couldn't come to terms with the depth of revelation the note she dropped gave him. How could she? How on earth was she able to fool me for so long? She told me that dude took advantage of her and she fell pregnant from the encounter. How didn't I see through the lies? How could she have made her boyfriend appear like a distant and heartless random man, and I swallowed everything hook, line, and sinker? He thought miserably as fragments of memories began to pitch together. He recalled the number of times he'd caught her making calls in hushed tones and how she immediately hung up at the sight of him. There were times he could swear that she appeared like someone who had just returned from an outing, but she'd ask where he thinks she could have gone to, and he'll just let it be. The last part of her note told him how she needed to get on with her life, because she was tired of living as his wife, while she sneaked out every day to get the satisfaction he couldn't give her. She also asked him to remember that all 3 children are traditionally his, because she conceived 2 of them in his house, while still living with him as his wife, and conceived the other before he paid her bride price. With his heart thudding frantically, as he considered the possibility of Stella's secret lover being responsible for her 2 pregnancies in their marriage, Andy saw the need to rush to a hospital to get a DNA test conducted, so he drove out with the 3 kids at once. He walked into the hospital with his 2 daughters, Emma and Lily, and his stepdaughter, Madonna. The tension was palpable as they all waited to get the results of the DNA test that would confirm whether or not Emma and Lily shared the same father as Madonna. After what felt like an eternity, the doctor finally emerged with the results. "I'm sorry to inform you that Emma and Lily are indeed siblings with Madonna. They do not share your DNA. The DNA test confirms that they share the same biological father with Madonna," the doctor said with a professional tone, before sending him to the post-test counselor. As he sat with the post-test counselor, Andy stared absent-mindedly as she explained why he shouldn't take out his frustration on the children. "They are innocent in all of this, Mr. Andy. It's important to remember that they didn't ask for any of this to happen. They still need your love and support, regardless of the circumstances surrounding their conception," the counselor advised. Feeling overwhelmed, Andy asked Madonna to take her sisters home while he collected his thoughts. He needed time to process everything that had happened and figure out how to move forward. Without a word to the counselor, he got into his car and drove to the nearest bar, hoping a drink would help him ease the ache in his heart. As he sat at the bar, Andy couldn't help but wonder how his life had taken such a drastic turn. Just a few hours ago, he thought he was a husband, a father, and a successful young man, but just with the speed of lightning, everything has turned into a huge joke. He felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and confusion, but he knew he had to find a way to cope for the sake of his mother. She had never supported the idea of his marriage to a girl from eastern Nigeria, and she had been constantly worrying about his welfare. The birth of Emma and Lily had actually made his mother relax considerably, So he knew she was going to be hit the more by the news of the children, eventually turning out to be someone else's. Consumed with grief and anger, Andy sought solace in the bottom of bottles, emptying one bottle after another. A couple of hours later, he stumbled into his house in a drunken haze, only to find Madonna, now a striking teenager, sprawled on the couch. She looked just like her mother, only just a lot more attractive and desirable. Her short gown hugged her in the right places, accentuating so much and leaving almost nothing to imagination. He tried to walk into his bedroom, but he couldn't take his eyes off the beauty and allure he suddenly found in Madonna as she slept peacefully on the couch with her legs carelessly thrown apart. Andy staggered closer to her and peeked down at her, licking his lips lasciviously as he noticed how womanly she had become. "Get out of here at once, Andy. Leave here before your eyes push you into a big mess," his head told him, but his eyes and hands had a differing opinion. "What could be messier than what you're already in? You paid the bride price for something she continued to offer him for free. You picked her bills, but he kept licking her balls. You've been keeping someone else's woman as a wife, and raising his children as yours, Andy. They have both made a fool of you, Andy. That is the truth. Who knows? Perhaps this girl right here is your compensation. Come on, Andy, this has to be your compensation from those cruel and deceitful parents she's got." The spirit of lust whispered hurriedly into his ears, and he found his hands moving on their own accord, already in a hurry to find out if the things in front of him were as soft as they looked. In his intoxicated state, he succumbed to his desires and deflowered Madonna, who surprisingly didn't make much attempts to resist him. The next morning, he awoke to find Madonna staring at him with a knowing glint in her eyes. She threatened to expose him if he didn't meet her conditions. But Andy, who was still feeling bad from the realization of what he had done, asked her what those conditions were. Madonna leaned in close, her voice a whisper filled with malice and mischief, and her eyes, a mirror of her irrationality, as she spoke the words that left Andy's eyes wide open in utter disbelief. Do you want to know what Madonna told her father? Can you already imagine how Andy is going to react to whatever she has told him? Subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon to turn on notification, so you get notified when I post the next episode of this very interesting story.